We've talked before about graphs of functions, but there are a few things about graphs of functions that we're going to talk about. I'm going to separate this into 3 separate videos to make concepts more accessible, I think. Each video is going to focus on one of 3 different things. This one's going to be pretty short, but there's a few things about functions that we want to talk about. The first one is this. Graphs of functions, I should say. Functions always pass the vertical line test. And if a graph passes the vertical line test, then it's a function. Okay, well, what's the vertical line test? So here is, let me go ahead and copy this down, is the vertical line test. Take any graph and think of all possible vertical lines to put on top of the graph. So let's go ahead. I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to go into more detail on this later, but let's just do some example. Like, say here's a graph, and it looks like this. I'm going to draw a parabola. We've been talking about parabolas in the previous chapter, so here's parabolas. Okay, so if any line, think of all possible vertical lines. So like this would be a vertical line. Now, is there any line that's going to pass through this curve more than once? Well, no. I mean, no matter where I put the line, it's always going to pass the curve at exactly one place. So if no line passes through the, the curve more than once, keep in mind I'm not taking into consideration the axis, only the curve. If no line passes through the curve more than once, it passes and it's a function. On the other hand, let's take a parabola, let's put it on its side, so it looks like this. Now, let's take a look at vertical lines. Let's put a vertical line right here. Well, we have, it passes through twice with this vertical line. See, here it only passed through once. Only passed through the curve in one place. But this vertical line passed through the curve in 2 different places. So that means it fails the vertical line test, and it's not a function. So it's a pretty simple idea. It's just that if a vertical line can pass through a curve more than once at any place in the function, at any place in the graph, then it's not a function. So this one is not a function because the line passes through it 2 places. This is a function because no matter where you put no matter where you put the line, it'll always pass through at exactly one place. Okay, so now let's clear that off, and let's go to a few examples. Here's some examples of some functions. Okay. This didn't come out quite as clear as I had hoped it would be, but so here's some functions. Let's take a look at each of these. So this is just a line. No matter where you put a vertical line, it's just going to pass through once. Those aren't very straight lines, but you get the idea. This is just what we did before. This is a parabola, so no matter where you put the vertical line, it's always going to pass through in exactly one place. The same here. This is x cubed, the function x cubed, so no matter where you put the vertical line, it'll only pass once. And same here. This is actually the square root of 3. Now you might be kind of thrown off by this right here, but no matter where you put the individual line, it's actually only going to pass through once. Even if it's exactly at 0, there's exactly one place where the line will cross through. Now there's some technical aspects to this, but the best way to recognize functions is that for every x, there is exactly one value of f of x. So f of x cannot map to 2 different values, it only maps to 1. And that's what the vertical line test is telling us. And the vertical line test is really the main idea. Basically that if you have an x here, so this is the value of x, there is exactly one value for that x. So what are some examples of some things that don't pass the vertical line test? So here are some things that are not functions. Like this right here. a vertical line itself doesn't pass the vertical line test because, okay, well this obviously doesn't pass at all, but here, if you put a vertical line on top of the vertical line, it passes through the curve at every point. So it fails the vertical line test. It crosses it an infinity number of points. Okay, so this right here, obviously this fails the vertical line test because you put this vertical line down, 1, 2, 3. So this single vertical line passes through 3 times. That means that this is not a function. And down here, I mentioned this previously before, this is a sideways parabola. It crosses at 2 different places. And over here, this is a circle. It crosses at 2 different places. So, let's see if I could zoom out some. Let's see, down to 150. Let's see if, okay, well, it's still not quite. Well, all 8 of these, every single one of them, can be represented as an equation, but not a function. So actually, even these that are not functions, I drew these in a program by representing them as equations. So just because it can be represented as an equation doesn't mean it can be represented as a function. Now, if it says f of x equals, yeah, then it's a function. I mean, that's almost the definition. In fact, that pretty much is the definition of a function. That it says f of x. Well, not. Okay, I got that backwards, but it doesn't matter. Bottom line being that if it says f of x is a function, but to recognize a graph as a function or not a function, you use the vertical line test. Okay, that concludes the first part. The next video will be a little bit more... Oh no, the next one will be pretty easy, but the third one is going to be the real meat of this section. It'll be a little bit difficult, but we will persevere. See you in the next lecture.